One strike changed everything. According to reports emerging on March 16th, Iran didn't aim at a military base or command bunker. They aimed at the production line itself. Rafael Advanced Defense Systems and Israel Aerospace Industries, the two companies that manufacture every Iron Dome battery, every Arrow interceptor, every defense system keeping Israeli cities alive. And they did it with a weapon that the head of Rafael publicly admitted his own systems cannot stop. What does that tell you about where this war is heading? Stay with me, because the answer is worse than you think. I've spent the last 17 days analyzing this conflict from every angle, tracking missile trajectories, interceptor expenditure rates, industrial capacity assessments. My name is Kenzo Shimada, and I specialize in understanding what governments don't want you to see. Today, I need to walk you through something that should terrify every defense analyst on the planet. Iran just demonstrated they can strike the factories that build the shield. And Israel's running out of ammunition to replace what's already been fired. Here's what we know. Press TV confirmed the weapon systems used in what Iran designated as Wave 55 of Operation True Promise 4. Fattah hypersonic missiles, Imad long-range ballistic missiles, Ghadr missiles, attack drones, all aimed at two targets that matter more than any airfield or radar installation. Rafael builds Iron Dome. They build David's Sling. They manufacture the Spike anti-tank missiles carried by IDF infantry. They're developing Iron Beam, the laser system Israel is rushing to deploy because it costs a few dollars per shot instead of the 50 to 100,000 it takes to fire a single Iron Dome interceptor. Israel Aerospace Industries produces Arrow 2 and Arrow 3, the most advanced anti-ballistic missile platforms Israel operates. Arrow 3 intercepts warheads in space. Arrow 2 handles threats in the upper atmosphere. Between Rafael and IAI, you're looking at the entire production chain behind Israel's ability to survive this war. And Iran put both of them in the crosshairs on the same morning. Now pause. Because 2 days before this attack, Semaphore published something that U.S. officials tried to keep quiet. Israel informed America it is running critically low on ballistic missile interceptors. Not running low in 6 months. Running low right now. Israel entered this war already depleted. The 12-day conflict with Iran last June, what they called Operation Rising Lion, consumed enormous quantities of Arrow 2, Arrow 3, and THAAD interceptors. At least 34 Arrow 3 interceptors. Roughly 9 Arrow 2, 39 THAAD interceptors. The Arrow 3 expenditure alone exceeded $495 million. And here's the problem. The fiscal year 2026 defense budget projects only 32 new THAAD interceptors for the entire year. More than a full year of THAAD production was burned through in 12 days last summer. Now stretch that math over 17 days of continuous fighting since February 28th. 56 named waves of Iranian retaliation. Wave after wave of ballistic missiles crossing into Israeli airspace. The Strait of Hormuz effectively blocked. Oil past $100 a barrel. More than 2,000 people dead across the region. This isn't a contained military exchange anymore. This is a supply chain event wrapped in a war. A U.S. official told Semaphore the shortage was something they expected and anticipated. Translation. Washington knew Israel's magazines were thin before the first shot was fired. Another official said Israel is coming up with solutions to address the problem, but neither official described what those solutions are. The IDF pushed back with routine denial language. But here's what the IDF did do. Within hours of that Semaphore report going public, the Israeli government approved an emergency transfer of 2.6 billion shekels, approximately $826 million, to the Defense Ministry. That vote happened by phone, late at night. Urgent and essential defense procurement. The same government had already revised its budget to add 32 billion shekels specifically because of this war. And it gets worse. Consider the unit costs. A single Arrow 2 interceptor runs approximately $3 million. An Arrow 3 costs around $2 million. A THAAD interceptor costs $12.7 million. Each THAAD battery holds 48 interceptors and requires 95 American soldiers to operate. Last summer's war consumed roughly 25% of the total U.S. THAAD stockpile in 12 days. And while Israel waits for replacements that don't yet exist, Iran is adding layers of complexity to every barrage. Reports confirm Iran has started fitting ballistic missiles with cluster munitions. Those scatter submunitions on re-entry, complicating interception and draining short-range interceptor stocks at the same time as long-range reserves. Every tier of the shield is bleeding simultaneously. Now we come to the weapon that hit Rafael and IAI, the Fattah. It's the most advanced missile in Iran's arsenal, and we need to talk about why it changes everything. The Fattah 1 was unveiled in June 2023. Western analysts have debated whether it qualifies as truly hypersonic, but what's not in dispute is that it uses a maneuverable re-entry vehicle. It changes direction during descent. That alone complicates interception significantly. The Fattah 2 is different entirely. Unveiled in November 2023, it carries a hypersonic glide vehicle. A glide vehicle doesn't follow a predictable ballistic arc. It maneuvers in both pitch and yaw. It maintains extreme speed during re-entry. It can skip across the upper atmosphere and approach its target from directions no existing defense system was designed to anticipate. The Fattah 2 entered combat on March 1st, 3 days into this war. Footage from inside Israel showed this moment of Fattah 2 struck a fortified IDF command center. 7 senior officers were reported killed. The trajectory of impact closely matched the profile of Russia's Oreshnik ballistic missile used in Ukraine. At least 3 confirmed Fattah strikes have been verified through Israeli-sourced footage since the fighting began. This is the weapon Iran used against the factories that build the interceptors. And here's what should stop you cold. In August 2025, Yuval Basesi, vice president of Rafael, said publicly that Iran's hypersonic missile development had forced his company and the IDF to fundamentally rethink how they approach air defense. His exact words were that hypersonic missiles represent a new era in air defense. He warned that the old model, launching a faster interceptor to chase down an incoming warhead, no longer works against this class of weapon. The head of the company that builds the interceptors publicly admitted the interceptors cannot keep up. And now those very factories are under direct fire from the weapon he admitted they can't stop. But Iran's targeting doctrine extends beyond production facilities. They've been methodically disabling the detection systems that make interception possible in the first place. One of the strongest confirmed cases is the destruction of an ANTPY-2 radar at Muwafaq Salti Air Base in Jordan, a loss later confirmed in U.S.-sourced reporting. Other strikes, including attacks on Al Udeid in Qatar and facilities in the UAE, have been reported as causing damage. Notice the sequence. Long-range early warning radar eliminated first, theater-level radar second, interceptor batteries third. That's not random. That's a methodical effort to dismantle layered air defense from the outside in, blinding the sensors before overwhelming the shooters. The Pentagon has stated that Iran's entire ballistic missile production capacity has been functionally defeated. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth repeated the claim. The IDF says it has struck more than 7,600 targets across Iran in nearly 5,000 aerial sorties, and claims to have neutralized over 70% of Iran's missile launchers and 85% of its detection capability. And yet, as of March 16th, Iran has conducted 56 waves of strikes. Volume is down. On day 1, Iran fired 167 missiles and 541 drones at the UAE alone. By day 15, those numbers had dropped to single digits. But the launches have not stopped. One analyst framed it precisely. It takes one successful drone to shatter a sense of security. Here's the interception trend that matters. In the June 2025 war, during the first week, only 8% of Iranian missiles got through. By the final day of that 12-day conflict, 25% were penetrating defenses. The degradation curve is steep. Sustained barrages drain stocks, exhaust operators, and give Iran data on timing, angles, and salvo sizes that tighten accuracy with every wave. Israel's health ministry reports 3,369 people injured and hospitalized since February 28th, including 142 in the past 24 hours alone. Missile debris from intercepted Iranian rounds has struck civilian areas including Hadera, Rishon LeZion, Lod, and Netanya near Tel Aviv. Now apply that curve to a war that's already on day 17, with interceptor reserves described by U.S. officials as critically low, with the factories that produce those interceptors now under direct fire from weapons that the builders themselves admit they cannot reliably stop. And consider the cost equation. A $30,000 Shahed drone that forces the U.S. to fire a $4 million Patriot interceptor is a win for Iran on economics alone. Iran exports approximately $35 billion in oil annually, even under sanctions. A $200 million barrage represents 2 days of export revenue. The asymmetry doesn't favor the side with the expensive ammunition. Iran's army released a statement on March 17th that removed any ambiguity about intent. It named Rafael's technology centers, cyber warfare facilities, and drone production infrastructure by function. It stated these centers enabled the Israeli regime to continue its aggression using advanced long-range military software and artificial intelligence-based technologies. It named Iron Dome and Iron Beam by name as Rafael products under attack. The message was clear. We know what you build, we know where you build it, and we can hit it. The plan from Washington and Jerusalem was clear. Destroy Iran's missile production capacity fast enough that the interceptor supply holds. The reality as of day 17 is that Iran is still launching. Israel's interceptor reserves are reportedly at critical levels. The factories that build those interceptors are now themselves targets, and the weapon being used against them is a class of missile that the vice president of Rafael publicly admitted his own systems cannot reliably stop. This is where we stand. 56 waves of Operation True Promise 4. The Fattah 2 glide vehicle verified in at least 3 Israeli-sourced impact recordings. Arrow 3 costs $2 million per shot. THAAD costs $12.7 million per shot. The U.S. global THAAD fleet stands at 7 batteries, already down 25% from last summer. $826 million in emergency Israeli defense spending approved by phone in the middle of the night. Iran's attack volume is down, but launches persist across every 24-hour window. And neither side has publicly defined what an acceptable end to this looks like. What do you think? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Who's winning this war? Can Israel's defense system survive if the factories that build it are under fire? Let me know. As always, thank you for watching. Please subscribe and turn on notifications so you catch my next video. Click the video on your screen right now to watch another.